May I request everyone to remain standing for the national anthem?
Just wait. Just wait. Wait one moment.
May I now request Professor Dr. Ranveer Singh, Vice Chancellor, National University, Delhi, to give his welcome address.
Welcome everybody. Welcome one and all. Special batch of the passing out batch of this year. Guys, you have done a fantastic job. We are proud of you. Mr. Thakur, Honorable Chief Justice of India, Honorable Justice K. Honorable Visitor, Annual Delhi, Honorable Madam Justice Rohini, Honorable Chancellor of Annual Delhi, and the Chief Justice of Delhi High Court, Shri Manish Sisodia, Honorable Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi, Honorable Justice Geeta Mukul, Honorable Justice Harinder Bhatt, Honorable Judge of the Supreme Court of India and the High Court, sitting and retired, members of the district bodies, fellow Vice Chancellors. I also welcome Professor Stenovic. Tom, you have come all the way from Pepperdine Law School and you specially stayed for the convocation. And also Susamran, an old friend student of mine from Nalsar, Hyderabad, who made us proud being at the Pepperdine Law School as a professor. Welcome to you. I also welcome judicial officers, government officials, members of the bar, advocates, the donors and their family members of various endowments, scholarship, gold medals, faculty members of and staff of New Delhi, graduating students of 2016 and their parents, the members of the media, print and electronic, and dear students, more importantly, of NLU Delhi. Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good morning to everyone present here and welcome to the fourth convocation of National University Delhi. I would like to thank our chief guest, Honorable Justice Thakur, for kindly gracing this occasion and consenting to do the convocation address. And fortunately for us, he has been the Chancellor of the University, that is NLU Delhi, in the year 2008. Welcome, sir. I would also like to thank Honorable Justice Thakur K. Visitor NLU Delhi and Judge of the Court of India for presiding over the convocation. Welcome, sir. I sincerely thank Honorable Madam Justice Rohini, the Chancellor of NLU Delhi and the Chief Justice of Delhi High Court for conferring the degrees. Welcome, Madam. I also thank Shri Manish Sisodia, the Honorable Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi, who has been a great source of strength for NLU Delhi for gracing the occasion despite the fact that he has been very busy. Special thanks to you, sir. I would like to place on record that before your first visit to NLU Delhi, the electricity bill of NLU Delhi was 40 lakhs a month. And after your visit, it came down to 20 lakhs. So this is your second visit. I expect a further cut. not in the, if not in the form of the electricity bill, at least in the form of very, very liberal grants. It is a great day for the students, those who are getting their degrees, and my best wishes and congratulations to all of them for a very, very bright future. In a short span of 8 years, Annual Delhi has made a special place for them, and the job of the Vice Chancellor at this occasion is to list the activities of the university. This is a protocol written duty given to the Vice Chancellor. Like all the schools, I will not take much time in saying we have done wonderful in conferences, workshops, and so many activities, debates, moot court activities. We are the best, and all those kinds of things. Every school would say that. We have already done this. We have already done this. This I am saying with a sense of sincerity of what I say, because in a very short span of time, the NLU Delhi students have created a scare. When people from other places come to know that NLU Delhi team is also there, they have ripples there in their bellies. So that's what we have created in a very short span of time. We made a place for ourselves. But that did not happen for no reason. We knew it, that we were the 13th law school. For us, the 12 law schools were already there. The law school, Bangalore was 25-year-old, Hyderabad was already a 15-year-old, and we had to make our place. So we had no choice but to work very, very hard. And that could be possible because of the dedicated faculty, because of the dedicated students, because of the dedicated supporting staff, because of the support of the High Court, the Supreme Court, all judges, all judiciary, and also because of the support of the government with a very liberal grant. And we are going to expand the campus because, Honorable Sir, when I admit 80 students out of 18,000 those who apply, I feel very bad. I somewhere look inside and find out that I feel I'm a criminal. Because when 18,000 students apply and I just take 80 students, somewhere I'm turning away 5,000 students. Honorable Chief Minister Sir, I would like to sit with you and devise a plan where we also start another institution of excellence where we admit a lot of students in 5-year program and the 3-year program so that we do not turn away these students, those who want to join Delhi as a center of excellence. So we'll work that plan very soon. I'm proud that the University has organized a lot of more competitions, the conferences, seminars, and for this the credit goes to the faculty. Our faculty has done a fantastic job. We got if NLU Delhi has made a name for itself, it is not because of anybody else, but because of the fact that out of the community of the law schools, NLU Delhi has got the best faculty. We have almost 5 vice chancellors working with us, those who have been vice chancellors of the law schools, a very senior faculty. We have Professor M.P. Singh, we have Professor Sidanand, we have Professor Bakshi with us, and so on and so forth. And this is because of very senior faculty and then very young faculty, those who came from Harvard, those who came from Yale, those who came from Stanford, NYU, LSE, and those faculty brought a very sound culture of research. So this is how we are different from other law schools. Everybody does teaching. Teaching is everybody's job, but when you make your place as a school of high-class research, then people notice you. And as I said, the faculty through its centers have done fantastic research projects. And I have to mention a few. The Center for Communication Governance has done a wonderful job at the national international level. We advise national, international bodies, we work with the government, we work with the parliament standing committees, and we come out with the India report and also partner with the international report on communication governance, a kind of research which is not done by any other law school. And it is because of that recognition, Harvard came forward. We did not go to Harvard. Harvard came forward and said, we would like to work with you on a project on hate speech. That's how it goes. we have grown, undertook the project on death penalty. Initially, me and Anup decided we are not going to take any money from anybody because this may be controversial. And when we come out with a study, the kind of reviews at the national, international level, it is a phenomenal publicity in terms of best of reviews we have got. Anup, wonderfully done. We are proud of it. And the idea, Honorable Sir, to do that project was not because of anything else. We want to see what is wrong with the criminal justice system. We found the Honorable Chief Justice of India that there is everything wrong everywhere in the criminal justice system. Unless we improve our criminal justice system, which we found failing at almost all fronts, may it be police reforms, may it be prosecution, may it be the witness protection, may it be prosecution, we found that the system is crumbling very fast. And I was a part of the Solidarity Committee which looked into the police reforms after the Prakash Singh Badal case. But unfortunately, all the guidelines were given by the Honorable Supreme Court in Prakash Singh Badal case. I found when the states formed their own police act, none of these states carried out the guidelines given by the Supreme Court in the Prakash Singh's case. If that is the commitment, if that is the seriousness, then what will happen to us? That is the reason we find the crime going up every day. May it be in relation to children, may it be in relation to women. We are at a crossroads. Somebody said that the effective criminal justice system is like a very busy crossing. So many people have to work to make it efficient. If the traffic lights at the busy crossing fail, the reason is chaos. Our criminal justice system is in a great chaos. If we don't act fast, tomorrow will be too late. Today is the answer. Our faculty has done a wonderful job, I said, in terms of Annual Convocation, one place where we train our teachers. We have, Honorable Sir, trained more than 400 teachers in different subjects, because we believe it's our mandate to provide a window to the teachers to come to Annual Delhi and get into subjects and get a kind of extension education which you have in medical colleges. That's again a great, we have signed a lot of MOUs, again a lot of institutions including private institutions sign MOUs, there is nothing great about it. But we very effectively implement all our MOUs. The students, let me come to the students of this batch, they have having very good placements, and sometimes we say they have gone to corporate sector, it becomes slightly uneasy to say, because the expectations from the law schools is different. We say, of course, earn money, but we have to produce socially relevant lawyers. But Honorable Chief Justice of India, I am happy to share with you that for the last 4 or 5 years, a fair amount of young graduates from the law schools have started going to litigation. That's a good news. Probably now, when I don't get into too many things as far as the achievement of the universities are concerned, but at the same time, when I look into the today's newspaper, I think many of you must have seen the newspaper. I found some very disturbing news when a person carries the wife on the shoulder, when a person carries a dead body on the cycle, when one doesn't get medical health care from the hospital and the child dies outside the hospital. The first generation reforms of India, everybody knows, those generational reforms brought freedom to the country. If the history of India would be written or any freedom struggle for the region, you will find the names of not many doctors, engineers or anybody else. You will find the name of advocates. The freedom to every country and the people, those who fought for democracy and fought for freedom of the freedom of the people, the fundamental rights, were nobody but all lawyers. And you remember during British time, many people who were bar at law went then behind bar to bring freedom to the country. That was one generation of lawyers. The second generation of lawyers sitting before me, you have a very, very tough agenda before you. And when you find the agenda is so tough that I read a report where I found the Ashok Seni Gupta's report. 1,000 million people survive on 20 rupees a month. Now, that is the level of poverty in the country. Now, this generation of students, whether you join corporates, whether you join litigation, whether you join NGOs, you have to be sensitized that you have to be agents of social change. And you don't become agents of social change, then our obligation as a lawyer is not discharged. Then what is the fight for this generation of lawyers? The fight is against poverty, the fight is against hunger, fight is against corruption, fight against crime against women, children, old people, and fight against atrocities in Harijans, Dalits, and plus. And in spite of the fact that we have 70 years of freedom behind us, India is free, many Indians are not. One of the delegates of Pakistan who came to attend a South Law conference, Honorable Chief Justice of India, he happened to visit Delhi. He came to South Delhi. He was staying in visited judges' houses, went to the North Block, South Block, see the President House, and then also was taken to Agra. And in that conference he said, when I came to Delhi, I found that streets of Delhi would be like streets of London. But unfortunately for me, beyond the South Delhi and the Luton's Delhi, I found a city with slums. I found a lot of slums when I went to Agra, and then he narrated two lines which I often narrate in every conference, including the NHRC conference. And then he says, I am reminded of two lines. Patthar ubalte rahi. I know Chief Justice of India is very fond of these couplets. That's why. Sir, Chief Justice, sir, the poverty, extent of poverty is this. पत्थर उबालती रही एक माँ तमाम रात, बच्चे फ्री खा के चटाई पे सो गए. The mother led the children to believe that I'm making food. In fact, there was no food in the house. She put some water and pebbles in the pot and said, I'm preparing the food for you. And the poor children thought that the mother is really cooking food. And by the time they slept, the job was done. We are in this India where people sleep on pavements. During winter, people do not find places in those shelter homes. If the concept of Article 14 is that everybody can sleep under the railway bridge, then I think we are in a serious trouble. The future generation of lawyers have to find answers to all these problems. It is a very, very serious concern for all of us. The mandate provided in the Constitution of India, the preamble, justice, social, economic, we made promises on 15th of 1947 that these are the promises we make the Constitution, that unfortunately, Honorable Sir, the rising expectations are turning to rising frustrations. And somebody said, let us not forget, all of us, especially the young generation of lawyers sitting before me, you may be earning a lot of money either today or tomorrow in the corporate sector or in the High Court or Supreme Court. If the people of India are angry, there is a very narrow line of difference between anger and hunger. If people are hungry for a long time, then what do you need to do? You need to reach the unreached, care for the uncared, help the unhelped. Krishna used to say, the fourth word within the third word, which is a very big word, the invisible man, not visible to the naked eye. We have a long way to go. I'm reminded of the Robert Frost poem. We have miles to go, woods are lovely, dark and deep. We have miles to go before we sleep. We have miles to go before we sleep, and we have a lot of promises to keep. The generation of lawyers, those who are going to join the profession, you have a lot of promises to keep. Then in the words of King Martin Luther, we have a dream. All of us share a dream, and that dream is that we create a different kind of India tomorrow when we enter the legal profession, wherever we go. And let us not forget that sentence of Dostoevsky, that everyone is responsible to everyone for everything. Thank you very much. I have the honor to request the Chancellor to declare the fourth convocation open.
I declare the convocation open.
I have the honor to present to the Chancellor the candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. They have been found qualified for the degree of Doctorate in Philosophy, to which I pray they may be admitted. The candidates taking the degree of Doctor of Philosophy will please stand forward. Chancellor will lead.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as the Chancellor, National Law University, Delhi, I admit you to the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in this university. Do you sincerely promise and declare that, if admitted to the PhD degree for which you are candidate and for which you have been recommended, you will, in your daily life and conversation, conduct yourselves as worthy members of this university?
Speaking the names, they'll come forward.
Miss Saudi Geeta Singh to receive the degree of Doctor of Philosophy from the Chancellor. Mr. Mike Verma
Please.
to receive the Doctor of Philosophy degree from the Chancellor. Ms. Diksha Mujan to receive the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Madam, I have the honor to present to you the candidates for the degree of Master of Laws, whose names are set out in the list. They have been found qualified for the degree of Master of Laws, to which I pray they may be admitted. The candidates taking the degree of Master of Laws in person, will please stand forward.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as the Chancellor, National Law University, Delhi, I admit you as also the candidates in absentia to the degree of Master of Laws in this university. Do you sincerely promise and declare that, if admitted to the LLM degree for which you are candidates and for which you have been recommended, you will, in your daily life and conversation, conduct yourselves as worthy members of this university?
The list of candidates receiving the degree to come forward according to their roll number. I should listen. Akansha Pandey. Akansha Pandey. David Dobson. Amit Vasist. Amra Singh. Ravi Singh. Jisani Shahu. Karan Chaudhary. Komal Kapoor. Nandini Singh. Noraj. Punder A. Devi. Radhika Naran. Shashank Mohan. Shyam Sundar Agarwal. Anjali Arora. Ankit Shrivastava. Ankita Mathur. Ashutosh Mani. Deva Panjur. Divya Swami. Divyansh. Rashmi Pranami. Udaima Bharadwaj. Amartya Sharma. Kanika Nandani. Kopila Kumar. Kriti Madan. Parveez Singh Bhuvan. Sachin Bharadwaj. Sarita Vimal. Saraswati Mahapatra. Shani Vernon. Sunay Farooq. Vijay Murthy. Sunayana Mishra. Now I turn to the award of the Great Honors. the honor to present you the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Laws, whose names are set out in the list. They have been found qualified for the degree of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Laws, BABMS, to which I pay your gratitude. The candidates taking the degree of BABM honors in person will please step forward.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as the Chancellor, National University Delhi, I admit you as also the candidates in absentia to the degree of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Laws honors in this university. You sincerely promise and declare that if admitted to the BA LLB honors degree for which you are candidates and for which you have been recommended, you will in your daily life and conversation conduct yourselves as worthy members of this university.
Most of the students receiving degrees to please be here. I call upon first Ayush Sundaram. Hemant Kothari. Ishan Patnaik. Ranveer Singh. Yogesh Nair. Kamal Wilson. Pushbu Chitwan. Kriti Soni. Kritika. Kunal Atwal. Daruna Singh. Manoj Singh. Mohan Jain. Mohan Mohan. Pawan Khan. Pawan Michel. Pawan Jain. Prashant Kumar. Pratik Nair. Rakesh Jain. Rajeshri Tiji. Pawan Chelsi. Vishka Srivastava. Nandraj. Suraj Jain. Suraj Sharma. Sandhya Sud. Deepak Shah. Suman Das. Suman Suman. Sumina. Tanvir Kumar. Utkarsh Srivastava. Vaishali Singh. विराट बनाइए। विवेक कुमार सिंह, Thank you very much. That is all for this segment. Now the rest of the item.
I have the honor to present to the Honorable Chief Justice of India and other dignitaries the candidates for the award of medals and prizes instituted by various endowments for BLB honors and LLM, whose names are set out in the list. They have been found qualified for the award of medals and prizes. The candidates receiving medals and prizes will please stand forward.
Our friends, in this segment, we present the list of good hands and cash prizes instituted by various donors in the name of their choice for various subjects of law and other medals which are awarded for disability empowerment students. So first of all, Shri K.K. Venugopal, Senior Editor, Supreme Court of India, has instituted a gold medal in the name of his father, late Shri K.K. Mandar, for the subject constitutional law. Shri K.K. Mandar, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India, has instituted a gold medal in the name of his father, late Shri for the subject constitutional law. Honorable Justice Ramurthy, former judge and High Court of Delhi, has instituted a gold medal in the name of his parents, late Shri P.G. Krishnamurthy, Freedom Fighter, and Mrs. Subbalakshmi, for the subject constitutional law. Honorable Justice S.V. Sinha, former of the Supreme Court of India, has instituted a gold medal in the name of his father, late Shri A. Sinha, for the subject public law. Shri Subhash Chandra Sharma, Advocate, Supreme Court of India, has instituted a gold medal in the name of Shrimati Rajya Sharma, for the subject jurisprudence. Honorable Shroff has instituted a gold medal in the name of Kalvi and Shroff gold medal for the subject corporate law. Honorable Sheeta Mishra, Advocates and founders SPS Jewish Legal Group, has instituted a gold medal in the name of Adil and Sheeta Mishra for the subject taxation law. Sri Manosh Chaudhary has instituted a cash prize in the name of his father, late Shri Paramatma Chaudhary, for the subject constitutional law. Friends, all these 7 medals and a cash prize are awarded to Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. अगर देखना मेरे वन जो तो कुछ और ऊंचा होने वाला Friends, I have the honor to present that Shri Amrish Village has instituted a government in the name of his family, Honorable Justice Village Energy for the subject and rights of property rights. Mr. Pradeep Anand Partner has instituted government in the name of Anand for the subject intellectual property rights. She brought India on behalf of the rights of instituted a government in the name of Mrs. University of India for the subject international trade law. Mr. Arshad Patul Khan and Sofia has instituted a government in the name of Republic Ali Khan and Mrs. Anna Khan for the subject competition law policy. She develops and science sector and private industry, Gurva Sani and Trust, Yadva and Mumbai has instituted a cash prize in the name of Mr. Bhajanji for the subject Civil Procedure Code. And these 4 medals and a cash prize awarded to yes, Bhajanji sir. That's the people that we need, and this is the from the first prize to the Chinese team, but I need the that's the people that we need, and this is the People सारे कोई बात नहीं होता है। अब मेरा वक्त बदल जाएगा तो तुम्हारी बात है। I have the honor to announce Kumar Awards in third segment. Shri S. R. Sharma, Advocate, Supreme Court of India, has instituted a gold medal in the name of Shri Sadhana Sharma for the subject criminal law. Shri Mohammed Ahuja and Shri Vinay Ahuja have instituted a gold medal in the name of Manila House for the subject alternative dispute resolution. Mr. Steve Pularu has instituted a cash prize in the name of Mr. Steve for the subject alternative dispute resolution. And these 2 medals and the cash prize are awarded to Subira. Chief Justice and Transport to receive 2 medals and the cash prize from Honorable Justice Rohini, Chief Justice and Chancellor, National University of Delhi. To present this document, Kerala Bank has instituted a cash prize, Kerala Bank Endowment Fund for the subject banking law and national instruments. And the cash prize awarded to Ms. Khushbu Subra. And I request on the Minister to come to confer the cash prize. And I also request Mr. K. Chandrasekhar has instituted a cash prize in the name of his esteemed teacher, Mr. R. V. for the subject criminal law. May I request Panya Sita? Honorable Minister will also confer a cash prize to the lady to receive for Tanya Sita, the student who is awarded to the National Bank. the next segment is award ceremony, which is for special award medals from the honors. First of all, it's a pleasure for me to announce that Mr. Chetan Samawat and Mr. Vijay Samawat have been distributed a gold medal in honor of Honorable Justice Ravi Samawat for the best student of the year award. Suresh Shroff from the Red Trust has distributed a gold medal in honor of Suresh Shroff for the first time holder. Dr. Abhishek Mursumbi Senior Head Supreme Court of India has distributed a gold medal in the name of his honorable Dr. Mursumbi for the best all-round performance. So this is one of the most fortunate honor we have, especially present in announcing all these three medals are awarded in the state of the She has made us proud. So let's get it right sincere and let's not go back. Friends, in the next segment, I have Bharati and Sri Shroff who were just instituted a gold medal in the name of Bharati Shroff gold medal for the second time program. Honorable Justice R.C. Babuji, former Chief Justice of India, has instituted a gold medal in the name of his father, Shri Babuji, heritage and freedom fighter, for the best student of the year. And these two medals are awarded to Ms. Vasari. And may I request Honorable Justice Devin Bhatt to kindly confer the awards to Vasari. I also wish to call upon distribute all the prize. Security Law Senior Executive Supreme Court of India has distributed a gold medal in the name of His Honor Shri Kawanis Suprema for overall excellence. This medal is awarded to Security Law Honor Justice to award this medal to Dr. Mrs. Santosh Chawla has instituted a gold medal in the name of Great Honorable Mr. Justice Nicholas Chawla for the legal aid and community outreach. This medal is awarded to Mr. Haran Kothari and I really to kindly do the honor. Haran Kothari to receive the community outreach. Chairman Seva Public School has distributed a gold medal in the name of which Shri Ganesh Sovan for the best outgoings career from excellence to diversity. And this medal is awarded to Anshul. reached the last segment of the presentation ceremony, and the third segment is a very special segment when the Vice Chancellor Board are honored to be the students. So, I am pleasure to say that the Vice Chancellor has instituted a board member for overall best learning assignment in the area, and this medal is awarded to Mr. Shashank Mohan. Vice Chancellor Mr. Ranjit Singh is to confer this award to Mr. Shashank Mohan. The Vice Chancellor will for overall best female student in Maryland goes to Boston. Overall best female student Maryland goes to Boston. So the Vice Chancellor is to be honored. Vice Chancellor has also awarded good rating for BA programs. He has instituted good rating for overall best female student, best male student in the BA programs, and I don't know the name. So give the round for me. Any guesses?
Hassan Kohli.
Vice Chancellor has instituted a board merit for overall best female student in the programs. And the award goes to
Ramya Shri.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for giving cooperation of the presentation ceremony. Now, we request the Vice Chancellor to invite. May I request the Vice Chancellor to please invite the Honorable Justice Thakur for the convocation address.
I have the honor to request Mr. Justice Thakur, Chief Justice of India, to deliver the convocation address.
My esteemed brother Justice J.S. Keher, Judge Supreme Court of India and visitor of the National Law University, Delhi, Shri Manish Sisodia, Deputy Chief Minister of the State of Delhi, Justice G. Rohini, Chief Justice of the High Court of Delhi and Chancellor of this university, Professor Ranjit Singh, Vice Chancellor of the university, members of the Governing Council, members of the Executive Council, members of the Academic Council of this university, members of the faculty, dear graduating students, parents of the graduating students, distinguished guests from within and outside the country, ladies and gentlemen, I consider it a matter of great honor to have been invited to deliver the fourth convocation address of the National Law University, Delhi. This institution has grown into a great center of learning within a short period of time. I am happy to know that students who have passed out from NLU Delhi have brought accolades to this institution by clinching prestigious fellowships from awards and invites this year. It is also a matter of pride for this institution to see some of its students excelling in the civil services examinations. One of the youngest who cleared the examination and set high benchmarks for future batches also happens to be a former student of this university. Students in this university have topped Delhi, Punjab and Haryana Judicial Service examinations, while several others who have passed out from here have been admitted to prestigious institutions in the West like Oxford, Cambridge, New York University and Yale, etc. I take this opportunity to congratulate National Law University Delhi for this significant achievement under the dynamic leadership of Professor Ranveer Singh, your Vice Chancellor. Dear graduating students, you have spent the formative and the most creative years of your life in this law school. I can see and share your joy and excitement. The cat calls say all about this, isn't it? It is obvious that you are all loaded with dreams, ambitions and aspirations. While you step out of the portals of this law school ready to explore a multitude of opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. But my dear young friends, this day is also a day of some introspection and understanding the responsibility that you hold towards the society in general and your alma mater in particular. You must have been sufficiently trained to think on your feet more than merely doing legal research. This will, I am sure, help you in meeting the challenges that come your way in your life ahead, in which you must play the role of a crusader for justice, fighting the grammar of anarchy, injustice and inequality in all spheres of life. You must face the challenges which the contemporary world poses for the downtrodden, whether social, political or economic, and steer the dynamics of change by being an instrument of constitutional values to which our country is wedded. You must be the hope of millions who suffer all kinds of wrongs silently, apart from unfair treatment and denial of justice. You must help in building an inclusive society in which everyone gets his due, regardless of his caste, race or religion. Your commitment to the ethics of legal profession and to the rule of law, I am sure, will help this country progress and prosper. I say all this because most of the historic events of social change have been led by lawyers, including the struggle for India's independence. I therefore look up to you, the lawyers of tomorrow, to be the true guardians of the democratic and constitutional values for the benefit of the future generations. It is heartening to know that legal profession today attracts the brightest minds in this country. This is largely due to quality legal education, which as a phenomenon started with the establishment of National Law School of India University in Bangalore in late 1980s. The judiciary, the bar, the legal academia, the legislature and the executive have joined hands in making quality legal education in India socially relevant by enhancing its academic vigor. All this happened when rest of the Indian minds were getting drawn to reputed law institutes of the West like Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, Yale and the like. Even when the law departments and law colleges affiliated to the universities in India are churning out large number of law graduates, most of them lack the academic atmosphere and research facilities that are necessary for any center of excellence. Establishment of national law schools offering an integrated 5 years law course with compulsory residential programs in that background has had a salutary effect and raised the standards of legal professionals, judicial officers, and judges of high courts in this country. Resultantly, the quality of justice is also improved to the benefit of the legal world. It is, however, time for all of us to think about the growth of centers of excellence in legal education and endeavor to provide world-class institutions in legal studies. We need to plan and work together towards creating the generation next legal education within our country, especially when we have the human and other resources requisite for doing so. Contribution of the students passing out from institutions like Annual in Delhi will be an important and valuable contribution in this regard. Graduating students need to remember that they owe a debt of gratitude to their alma mater, which can be repaid only by continued association with the institution that has given them so much. This is essential because globalization and expanding legal markets beyond national boundaries necessitate that we prepare our law students with adequate focus beyond the legal system of this country. We need to impart sophisticated skills to our law students and equip them with transnational problem-solving abilities. Expanding global market by virtue of diversification of international business, transactions and international trade, global operation of banks and manufacturing industries transcend national boundaries. Each of these multinational transactions are based on multilateral legal obligations for which India needs competent law graduates to comprehend laws of diverse jurisdictions and to render effective service. It is in this context that law schools need to fight domestic insularity in developing their curriculum to globalize legal education, which is the need of the hour. Dynamics of legal education, we ought to remember, is one of the major challenges in this country. I would therefore take this opportunity to urge the law professors to revisit the curriculum of various courses taught in the law schools and suitably upgrade them to suit the international market. Let us not forget that even national law schools, despite the advantage they have over other schools and colleges offering legal education, require a generational change to compete with the Western centers of legal studies. While law schools and universities may continue to satisfy the need of the legal profession, national law schools need to focus on producing a new class of law graduates equipped with the legal knowledge and research capacities to match their counterparts from the West. This would enable the young Indian law graduates to effectively compete for coveted positions that are emerging in the global legal market. Dear students, access to justice has been declared as a fundamental right by the Supreme Court of India in Imtiaz Hussain versus State of UP and Anita Kushwaha's cases. The right comprehends a mechanism for adjudication that is reasonably accessible in terms of distance and a process that is affordable to the litigants. But more importantly, implicit in the right to access to justice is the speed at which the process of adjudication must be completed. The adjudicatory process in the courts today is taking unduly long time, which more often than not defeats the right itself. There are several factors that contribute to this situation. All of us know the reasons behind the same, but lawyers as major stakeholders in the adjudicatory process owe a professional and moral obligation to ensure that they do not become an instrument for denying or delaying justice to the litigants. Professor Ranveer Singh, during his welcome address, mentioned about the crumbling criminal justice system in this country. I entirely agree with him, and I have, ever since I have taken over, at a number of occasions, highlighted the need for reforms and also the need for upgrading the system to meet the societal requirements. I don't want to be repetitive because this has been mentioned repeatedly, but I feel that reforms and especially rejuvenation of the system by additional vacancies being created, appointments being made, infrastructure being provided is the need of the hour. And that is not only in the discipline of criminal law justice, but it is also in the civil law system. Criminal trials directly affect the liberty of the citizens. People are languishing in jail. The least you must do is to ensure that they get their verdicts, whether they are guilty or innocent, within a reasonable time. Speedy trial is a fundamental right, a part of right to life. That is what the Supreme Court has said. But unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, and the major reason is, as we all know, the lack of proper number of judges that are required, this is not happening. It is not happening at the trial level, it is also not happening at the appellate level. But these need to be addressed, is all that I would like to say at this occasion. Not only for the efficacy and the sake of criminal justice, but also justice generally, whether it is in civil discipline or otherwise. Dear students, remember that while the interest of client is what you are expected to protect, as an officer of the court, you should never contribute to the delay in the adjudication of disputes. There is a growing feeling, as you would all appreciate, when you enter the legal profession and become a part of that process which administers justice, that there is a growing perception about the delay in the administration of justice also being caused by, to an extent, by the lawyers. There's always a situation where one side would like the things to be expedited and the other would like this to be delayed. Whether it is a tenant-landlord case or whether it is a recovery suit where the plaintiff wants money to be recovered, or whether there is a possession suit where somebody is asking for possession of the property based on title, there is a tendency among litigants and consequently a tendency among lawyers also to gain time. Now that process can, result in failure of justice. So my appeal to you is that as lawyers, yes, you may be expected to, or you may be required to protect the interests of the client, but as an officer of the court, you should resist any such temptation that has the tendency or the potential of defeating justice. And one of the ways justice is very often defeated is by delaying the delivery of justice. Our system in the courts, which has been inherited by us from the British times, is in terms of the framework perfect, because the whole idea behind the Code of Civil Procedure and the Code of Criminal Procedure is to ensure that there is no injustice caused. CPC and CRPC makes provisions, extensive provisions, only to ensure that there is no failure of justice. The court always has that power to ensure that there is no failure of justice. But the provisions are so capable of being abused by brilliant lawyers, and some of you will become brilliant lawyers. I can see the number of gold medals you have won. I have never won a gold medal myself. If I could reach to be the Supreme Court Chief Justice, I am sure you will go far ahead. But the ingenuity of a lawyer, or his capacity to use the system, should not lead you to abusing the system. And it is at times the abuse of the procedure which we follow in the courts that results in delay. My appeal to you is that let you be the instrument of change, let you be the agent of change. Let lawyers refuse to contribute to the delay in the administration of justice. You need not tell the client, well, I cannot ensure that you will not be evicted from your house or your shop, but I can only assure you that the plaintiff will not get a decree for next 20 years. I will delay the matter. You see, this is sometimes the tendency. The tenant's lawyer will say, look, my client, you will have to vacate because the landlord has a good case. But I can ensure that you will not be touched for next 20 years because I will continue delaying. I will make one application today, another application tomorrow, then continue taking it to high courts and the Supreme Court and so on. So the fact that you have a client and the client's interest lies in delaying the proceedings should not, I would humbly submit, induce you or tempt you to subvert the process of justice. Because you are not just a mercenary. You are not actually a mercenary. You are an officer of the court. You are a dispassionate participant in the process by which justice is eventually administered. So in that capacity, you should not become an instrument of oppression against the other party just because you are brilliant, just because you are competent, just because you know the CPC in and out and the CRPC, so that you can continue using your ingenuity with a view to delaying justice. So I would request you that justice is already notoriously being delayed, and the causes of delay we all know, several causes, but one of them is, and one of the major causes which is relevant for this function today is that lawyers also cause delays. My appeal to you is, please don't do this, because you will get greater satisfaction by being an independent and dispassionate and objective and honest officer of the court, rather than simply taking up a cause and by using or abusing the process of law, serving the ends of serving the interests of a client who has remunerated you. Lawyers very often are accused of being responsible for delay in the disposal of cases, which in turn defeats justice. That is neither professionally nor morally correct for one who is committed to upholding and ensuring justice. Remember that you are an active participant in the judicial process, and in that capacity, no part of the blame for any delay should fall on you. With the cooperation of the bar, the performance of the judges will also improve, as the quality of justice is directly proportional to the quality of assistance which the bar provides to the judges. In conclusion, I congratulate the graduating students, especially those who have won medals today, and I find that the number of girls winning medals is larger than the number of boys. I think one of the changes that we are experiencing in the legal world is that girls are coming in large numbers in the legal profession. At the lower level, at the junior division level, the number of girls have already started exceeding the number of boys being appointed as judges. But at the higher level, perhaps also this will in due course, improve. I was in Shimla some time back for a convocation, and the Chancellor, His Excellency the Governor, was speaking to the students, and there, here at least Mr. Das and a few others have won some prizes in Shimla, in Himachal Pradesh University. 95% of the medals were taken by the girls. So the Chancellor, His Excellency the Governor, said, I don't know what these boys are doing, whether it is in Olympics or in the university, it is the girls who are getting medals. And he, perhaps referring to that young girl who won a medal in wrestling, he said, "ये पहलवान क्या कर रहे हैं?" And we want the boys, be careful, do something, otherwise घर में खाना पकाने के लिए तैयार हो जाओ, because the girls are taking over the whole scene. I can compliment the winners of the medals, but for those of you who have not won a medal, I will only tell you, please don't get disheartened. The life struggle is a very long struggle. Life will give you ample opportunities to get even with the medal winners. You will one day maybe, one never knows really, you see, just because somebody has won a medal, it may show he has done well. Yes, he is doing well, he may do well, equally well in the profession. But I can assure you, a medal is one thing. Success in life and success in the profession is entirely different thing. So life is presenting to you an opportunity, maybe a much bigger opportunity for you to excel those who have excelled you in the legal profession, in the legal examination here. In conclusion, I congratulate the graduating students on this memorable day in their lives and compliment the members of the faculty who have shaped them to face the trials and the tribulations of the life ahead. May God bless you all with the success in whatever you do. This university, who has shaped you for the struggle ahead, shall legitimately feel proud of the fact that you passed out from its portals to seek your destiny and all that goes with it. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Now a glimpse into some of the prolific publications of National Law University Delhi and the formal release of few of its prestigious publications at the hands of the distinguished dignitaries on the stage today. It is my privilege to request Honorable Justice T.S. Thakur, Chief Justice of India, to formally release the Journal of National Law University Delhi, also completing its fourth successful year. The publication, Victim Justice, a paradigm shift in the criminal justice system in India, is authored by Professor G.S. Vajpayee, also Registrar, National University Delhi, and Ms. Shreya Gauba, eminent alumni of National University Delhi. The research reported in this book explores the scope of rights and its deliveries in the justice system for victims of crime, documenting some best practices regarding crime victims from the world over. This book presents a strong case of mainstreaming crime victims in the criminal justice system. The book traces some of the judgments of the Supreme Court and High Courts that allude to the shaping of a victim jurisprudence in this country that now poses a forceful argument to challenge the conservative notions in criminal justice and criminal law academia. I invite Ms. Shreya Gauba to come to stage. I also invite Ms. Veena Dikshit, Country Manager, Thomson Reuters Legal, the publisher of the book, to come to stage. I request Honorable Justice Rohini, Chief Justice, Delhi High Court and Chancellor, National Law University Delhi, to formally release the book. I request Ms. Veena Dikshit to remain on the stage for the next publication. The next publication is titled Judgments That Shaped Indian Jurisprudence. Professor G.S. Vajpayee, also Registrar This speech aims at providing a solution to various problems which would enable the readers to access a plethora of judgments compiled at one place without having to resort to different sources of law. It has been conceived and planned to enable the search of all the rulings easily and quickly. It is a comprehensive work which is spanning judgments of the Supreme Court to the present day between 1950 and 2016. I invite now Mr. Naman Monod to come to the stage. I request Honorable Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi, Mr. Manish Sisodia, to formally release the book. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Chief Justice of India, for the wonderful convocation address. I have the honor to request the Chancellor to declare the convocation closed.
I declare the convocation closed.
May I please request everyone to kindly arise for the national anthem. Now I would like to request the students to join for the group photograph with the distinguished guests. The PhD students are requested to come forward to the stage.
I think we can go ahead. Okay. We'll come. चलो ठीक है. साइड में आ जाओ, साइड सेंटर में ले लो ना, सेंटर में बिठा लो. ठीक है ठीक है. ठीक है ठीक है. चलो ठीक है. डिस्टर्बेंस नहीं करो यार, बैठने दो.
Now I am requesting the Indian students to come forward in front of the stage for the group photograph.
हाँ नहीं, आपको आगे निकलेंगे कुछ बच्चे नीचे आ जाते हैं ना उसमें. आप आओ ना.
On the stage in groups of 2 or 3 in front of the stage, the Indian students. आपकी हो जाएगी. आपके
Oh, they have come.
Students are coming on the stage. The distinguished guests will be seated.
We will sit down, let the other student come on the stage.
कभी कभी ऐसे भी हो जाता है। ठीक है जी। अभी कम 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 है। कम प्लीज प्लीज
Some kneel down, some
kneel down, sit here.
some kneel and some sit.
आगे बैठो ना हरिया हरिया प्लीज।
Some kneel down, some sit.
मैं तो खड़ा हूँ। हमने तो किया
You have to go down a little more.
साइड में
Oh, I see. No, no, those are there.
हरिया हरिया
And maybe you have to go down a little more.
थोड़ा सा हरिया 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 मुझे रात को बहुत खड़े हो गए थे बच्चे मुझसे खड़े हो गए। Depends. इनके लिए 5 lakhs. Thank you. Not from both sides.
I would now request the come to the stage.
बच्चों की फोटो खिंच जाएगी। हरिया 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 बच्चे सारे नीचे खड़े हैं। बहुत ज़्यादा इंस्ट्रक्शन दे रहे हैं, आपसे प्रॉब्लम हो रही है। नहीं वो हम जैसे करते हैं काम करते हैं, हमसे प्रॉब्लम हो रही है। कोई आगे कह रहा है ये ऐसी नहीं आपको देखना चाहिए पहले ऐसी किया था। ठीक है उनको कर लो पहले वो तो पहले एडजस्ट करो हमारे हर साल कितने लास्ट में 1 row we can have some will sit down some will कर लेंगे चिंता नहीं।
We can have one row on the dais. Please, Mr. President, requested to come on the dais. Yes, on the right. You be here. One road will be there, those who are not able to exist down the This is one road, you can follow only, others please remain there, others please remain there. Only those who are not able to exist, they will go down on the heights. That's fine, that's fine.
We probably we have to check.
If it is case,
I think we have to make a
also we can say,
नहीं तो बच्चे दिखेंगे सर आप उधर जाए आइए सर प्लीज हाँ जी हम ये करते हैं डबल कर देते हैं सब इतना सब हाँ चलिए आइए मैम मैडम प्लीज कम हम पहले चलेंगे ना चलो अब तो आइए सर